Welcome everybody. This is the first episode of Money, Life and Gags with Harry and Mark. It's the 14th of January today.
14th.
We started on the 12th and we're now on the 14th and we still haven't finished our first episode. But we've had equipment failures galore and connections galore, but I think we're finally there.
I think so.
So welcome everybody. So how do you want to kick it off, Harry?
I think we...
How about the story how we got to this position to make fools of ourselves?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that we mentioned that just before Christmas, like how in the hell did we end up doing a podcast? It started off as a joke, actually.
It did, 100%.
Because my daughter came up on your TikTok feed page.
No, you actually texted me.
Oh, I texted you, yeah.
You texted me Adele's TikTok where you were in it. And I think it was to do with frappies or frappes or frappe or however you want to
the
pronounce
Greek iced
it.
coffee, not the Starbucks frappe. It's the Greek coffee, frappe.
And this TikTok went
it went viral. Yeah.
And so we came up with a brainstorm. Geez, if she could do it, why couldn't we
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
it? You know, let's get in this game. And so here we are. We've started our first podcast. This is episode 1. I will say up front, we will be talking a lot about money and potentially investments and things like that, and none of this is a investment advice. We're just talking shit, spinning
We're only
the wheels,
expressing opinions.
expressing opinions. So please don't go off and buy anything we talk about.
Absolutely not.
If
I can
go
assure
see
you.
a financial advisor and a solicitor and any other person that you trust. But don't just follow us. But yeah, we're here to have some fun, here to take the piss out of each other, talk some serious stuff, provide some value, and see where it takes us.
Well, I guess we can start by
The year of 24.
24. What surprised you in 24?
This is our third take at this.
I know.
Pretty
And our
much nailed
fourth.
it,
It's
right?
fourth.
It's our fourth take.
Fourth.
Yeah, cool. So probably the biggest surprise for me, and as you know, I'm involved in the micro cap of ASX world and companies and so forth. And I really thought 24 was going to be the year of breaking the grind, breaking the drought, and investment and liquidity coming into the market. But it was another year of grind, and that really surprised me. I was predicting better things, and probably blindly, and maybe eternal optimistic. But I really thought, after 3 years of grind post COVID, that we would be in a better position. But no, we're not.
So 25's looking better?
25, I've gone back to fundamentals as to why I would have an opinion as compared to my emotional judgment. And I'm seeing a lot more activity, a lot more demand, a lot more appetite for M&A, mergers and acquisitions. You'll hear the term M&A a lot in our dialogue.
And perhaps you can explain, what do you actually do?
Well, I look for minimum input for maximum output jobs. So I currently sit on a number of ASX boards as chairman/director, and I also head up a mergers and acquisitions department within an accounting firm. My passion is mergers and acquisitions, and also working at the small end of the ASX and helping companies grow through acquisitions and then integrating them and getting synergies out of them and so forth.
And you've been doing this for quite a lot of time now. It's been at least the last 10 years?
Longer.
Wow.
Yeah, no. So I started, probably my first decent foray into ASX world as a director was as managing director of Paragon Care, and that was in 2008.
Oh, geez, time flies. It was too.
Yeah, and in Paragon Care we started with a market cap of 1 to 2 million. We did 20 acquisitions over a 10-year journey during my period there, and by the time I left, we had a market cap of about 230, 240 million, and we went from having nothing to about 35 mil of profit and so forth. So that was a really exciting journey. After 10 years, I'd had enough, and so I thought, I don't like people that much, and there was too many people that were in this team, because through the acquisitions, I think we had 300 plus people.
Towards the end?
Yeah.
And what did you start with?
3 guys in a room with a strategy.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
I had a chairman, I had a non-executive director, and myself. And thankful to those 2 guys, they backed me in on a strategy to roll up in the healthcare space.
So when you say roll up, what does that exactly mean, so everyone can understand?
So roll up is effectively have a sector view. So in our view, it was the healthcare sector was highly fragmented. And so our view was, let's go and acquire multiple companies in that sector and provide not a one-stop that covers everything a hospital would buy, but a lot of products and services that a hospital would buy, and they could deal with one party to one company on all those products and services.
And that journey was over 10 years?
That was 10 years, 20
Right.
acquisitions, and by the end of it, we were doing consumables, we were doing blood, blood reagents. We bought a business off CSL. We were doing hardware equipment. So if you think about everything that's on wheels that goes into hospitals, we were doing all of that. We were doing ultrasounds and neurology. We were doing newborn hearing testing, which was a government-funded program.
Multitude of things.
So we were doing so many things, and we also was doing service and technology. So we had a lot of biomedical engineers in the field, servicing gear for hospitals and aged care facilities.
So when you started off with Paragon, were you limited by funds, or did you have to raise funds, or did you have to borrow funds? Okay.
Yeah, so it was really tough. So we started Paragon during the GFC.
Oh, wow, what a great time to start.
I pick, I like passing kidney stones for a living. So that was really tough. I was really lucky, or as a company, we were really lucky. We found a benefactor who was an operator in the field, and so he helped fund a number of acquisitions for us.
Right.
And then he had a business in the sector, and so
he had a vested interest.
Well, no, we had a gentleman's agreement that once he helped fund a number of the the first few acquisitions, that we would look at his business, and if it made sense for us to buy it, never committed to him that we would buy it, but gave him my word that he would be the next cab off the rank.
And did it happen as what you said?
We bought his business, and he's been he's not. I don't know if he's still a shareholder now, but he was a major benefactor to get Paragon kick off during tough times to raise capital. By the end of it, it was really easy to raise capital. At the end,
because the bigger that you get, the market appreciates who you are, and therefore it's much easier to raise money through capital raisings.
Yeah, 100%,
right.
100%. And as we grew our market cap, we became really attractive to institutional companies. So institutional fund managers, and so we had the who's who on our register, our shareholder register, and on my way out, the numbers are a bit phasey, but the circa we raised about $80 million, and we pretty much did it in 48 hours.
And you started with
a market cap of $1 million. $1 million, and we had $1 million in the bank, and we had to slowly build from there.
So do you really have to get it right in the early piece because you're limited by funds?
Yes and no. It depends on who's backing you. If you've got access to funds, there's no right way to do this. It's what you can do within the means of what you can do, and who can you bring to join your journey.
Right.
And so we were really fortunate. We had some really good bankers as well, and so we played the straddle between raising capital and raising debt to fund our acquisition growth. And we kept delivering, dividends to the shareholders, and so we became what's called, I don't know if you've heard of the term Gary investment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Gary, Gary, which is growth and relative yield. And so we became one of those. I learnt that off a US guy. The Australian market wasn't really aware of that. So every time I talk to institutions, I'd say, we're a Gary investment. And you could see them, like they're supposed to know all these things, so they don't want to say, what is that?
Yeah, but they had no idea. What's a Gary?
Yeah, what's a Gary investment? And so we became a really attractive yield play. Like we didn't pay massive yield, but you got growth in the stock.
Yield, just explain yield, meaning that the return that the investors would get on a yearly basis through dividends?
Yeah, so we were paying around 3 to 4%. Subject to when you bought your shares, but at the time of the dividend being issues, it was about a 3 to 4% fully franked dividend.
Wow! And
you were getting double-digit growth on the stock over that 10-year journey. Now the dividend came in at about year 4 or 5. It didn't come in at the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, it was great. It was the best journey and gave me so much knowledge, so much intel, so much networking. And part of the reason I get attracted to board seats now is because of that
experience
journey.
On the Paragon Care.
Yeah, and people know me, and they know what I bring to the table, and a lot of companies want to grow for M&A.
Okay, so leaving Paragon Care, you decided to continue the journey, but you wear like how many hats? You do so many things. The attitude that, I guess I was drummed in a long time ago that you only do one thing and you do it well, that obviously doesn't sit well with you.
Well, it depends how you look at it, right? I do one thing and I do it well, is I do what I want to do. And that's my one thing. But yes, I'm not a big strong philosophy on, single focus. I don't like it as a company when you have one product and you've got a single product.
And you're relying on that product to bring you success.
Now, you might be, in NVIDIA and you've got the best chip in the world and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. I'm not begrudging any of that. But if you're just doing widgets and that's all you do, it's pretty limited what you can do, and you get bored as well. So for me, I like the multitasking, the different companies. Every day is completely different. I don't have 2 days the same my entire life, and I still have work-life balance where I still spend time with my family, and weekends are family time. I don't do a lot of work on weekends, so I've got that nice sweet spot where I love what I do. I do a multitude of things, so it taps into my short attention span. I live life. My work life is in increments of 15 minutes. I say jokingly. So every 15 minutes, I'm working on different parts for different companies. Whether it's M&A advisory, which is what I do, whether it's as a board seat and supporting CEOs, or whether it's looking for acquisitions for these companies I sit on the board of.
I can tell, Mark, that you're jumping out of your skin with enthusiasm, which is fantastic. What do you say to people that are struggling with their careers or with their employment? They're just not happy where they are.
Every circumstance is different.
Yep.
I do appreciate people have responsibilities, have commitments and whatnot, but you only got one life. And if you're not fulfilled in your life, I'm a big believer, as best as you can achieve, you need to be passionate and wake up every day excited about what you do. This enthusiasm you're feeling off me right now, I'm like that every day. I'm like the...
Yeah, I know you. I've known you for a long time.
And the minute you see me not doing that, I'm thinking about I've got to go do something else.
Right.
Now, I'm a high risk taker, so not everyone is that way. I'm okay to leave a job and just run the gauntlet. I firmly believe I always land on my feet. Opportunities will come, and that's just my positive thinking.
Because you always look for opportunities. I think that's your mindset. I think that's how basically you click. So I think I might have mentioned to you before that a lot of people are very frustrated, and I always get frustrated when I hear the feedback that they don't put the effort to pivot or to do something about their careers or to change occupations. What do you say to someone that's really stuck at this point in time?
Well, you really got to see, some people just like whinging.
Professional whingers.
For whinging's sake, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so they don't actually want to make a change. They just like whinging, and they get caught in a rut of whinging. There's a saying we use a lot, misery loves misery. And some people are just like that.
And it goes round and round and round and expecting a different result.
I'm a big believer, actions tell you everything and words just are noise. And so you've got to look at someone's actions. Now, sometimes they need a bit of freeing up so they can do those actions, and so that's where talking can help. But if they don't do anything about it and they just keep talking, then they're just gunners. And so those people are really hard to help. How do you get somebody out of that gunner mode? Going to do this and going to do that, but never do it. It's really difficult. For the people that really want to change, my advice to them is don't just jump at a change, plan the change. So if you had a dream, you had something you're passionate about, find a path to get to that, understand what you need to do. I'll use an extreme example. If you work on a fruit shop but you want to be a lawyer, well, you've got to go to university part-time while you're still feeding your family, working at the fruit shop. You've got to get your education, get your diploma, your degree in law and whatnot. Then, go through. So there's paths there. That's an extreme example, but there's paths there that you need to follow to get to that end goal.
But you have to be all in. Because I find that most people, they think of the change, they want to change, they want to improve their salary or their career or their focus, but it's always one foot in. It's not both foot in and let's do it, whatever it takes. Not too many people can actually produce that energy.
No, because it's a big commitment, right? Like if you want to pivot, and if it's an extreme example I gave, then you're sacrificing something, right? Because you still have to keep your job to keep feeding the family and so forth. And then you've got to study if you're going to be a lawyer, so you've got to study. So whatever path you're going to take, you can't just switch off one and dial into the other. There's a path you have to follow, and there's things you'll have to do, whether it's education, whether it's interviewing, whether it's getting your CV ready, whether it's furthering a bit of professional development, whatever it may be, whatever someone wants to do. We're going to be billionaire podcasters here, right? So
absolutely.
This past week of getting all this equipment ready, that's our pain to get to this
100%.
point, right? So you've got to have a plan. And so I encourage everybody, if they want to make a change, commit to the change. Don't act on the change until you know your plan and it's solid proof. And at the end of it, if you achieve all the steps to get there, there's opportunity waiting for you there.
And be prepared for pain. Because if you're not going to go through the pain barriers, you're not going to get to the other side. I find most people, and I know you and I are going to disagree on this.
Are you going the resilient road?
Yeah, I'm going the resilient road, especially with young adults. Resilience to me is the key. But look, the fact is I was fortunate enough that I met a very famous sporting coach, and his pathway to success was sacrificing for a long, long period of time. But he got the job done. And it made me think that people who want to change or who want to change their careers or just do something different so they can jump out of the bed and looking forward to go to work, they do a bit, they might do a little bit more than a bit, but they just give up. Because I know for a fact that, that 80-20 rule, 20% of the people do 80% of the work and 80% of the people only do 20% of the work. There's a reason for that. And it's got nothing to do with education or their upbringing. It's really got to do with a commitment. And like you said, if they've got a passion and they're all in, and I mean all in, you're virtually guaranteed of success no matter what. I can't promise a time period, but it does happen.
Yeah, I agree. Positive thinking gives you positive outcomes.
100%.
And so if you're not positive about it, don't do it. Just live in misery world and be happy with that plot and get on with your life and enjoy your social life, I guess.
I did.
But if you want to pivot your careers, the big key is planning.
It really is. Job market has changed, Mark, since COVID. Has anything changed? Because I see young adults just jumping from one job to another every 6 or 12 months.
There's a few problems there. So there's certainly that. And so, like in the past, you'd hire somebody, young, middle-aged, doesn't matter. They do a probation period, and success was passing that probation period and keeping your job.
Yep.
Now, a probation period is a trigger for a salary renegotiation.
Really?
Yeah, I've successful passed my probation, so I should get more now. And so you have to deal with that. The working from home phenomena, which is the wheel's slowly turning. But governments aren't fully committed to having everyone back in the office yet, and that's where it starts. And so while government don't do it, then it's hard for for private world to force it. But people working from home, like I know lots of examples, in various companies where these people working from home, they do their washing, they go out for a coffee, productivity's down, right? Sure, they're not traveling, they've got, so they've got nice work-life balance, but as a company, I reckon as a majority, we're getting less productivity out of people who work from home as compared to when they used to be in the office.
And yet it's sort of like set the standard now, because I hear a lot of people that will only change their jobs if there's provision for them to stay at home at least 2 or 3 days per week. So is that true?
That's true. You do get candidates that when they apply for a job, can I work from home? Can I work from home? Now, we don't ever say you can't, but I just ponder the question to them all the time. So you work from home all the time. I don't build any rapport with you whatsoever. And then it's salary review time. Do you not think the people that I have rapport with and I work at the coalface with, I might have a more educated view on whether they deserve progression, whether they deserve pay rises and whatnot, as compared to someone that all I'm seeing is output, but no relationship with that person, because you can have a meeting on a screen, but you can't tell much off that. How are they going to laugh at my jokes on a screen, right? So it's not going to work that well. So you ponder that, but it's difficult. It's difficult, but it's slowly changing.
Expectations of salary, has that changed since COVID?
It's only gone up. Like you've seen a wage explosion in Australia across the board.
I have.
And that's driven CPI and that's driven interest rate increases and so forth. So there's a domino effect on all these things.
And young people seem to be chasing the salary increases. I mean, I can appreciate they're really having a hard time. Young couples starting their mortgages a couple of years ago with a 2% mortgage.
Yep.
And
now
with a blink of an eye, it's 6.25%, 6.5%. So their mortgages have gone up 50, 60, 70%. I mean, it's really tough for them. I actually thought we were going to have a property downturn, but the opposite's true. But they're really having a hard time, and I'm sort of like praying that they reduce mortgage rates in 2025. I'm not too sure if that's going to happen or not. But is this why young people seem to be chasing salaries more than a career?
I think it's played a factor.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of single young people that jump a lot too.
Do they jump more because they've got no commitments? or minimal financial commitments?
It depends on sectors. So in the tech sector, you see a lot of jumping, and they jump because it's the next shiny toy. They get to work on new projects, that sort of things. In healthcare, it's a little bit stickier. They're the sort of sectors I'm exposed to. Some of the others I don't really know. I don't know the construction space or anything like that. But you know, the people who have higher interest cost of living, let's call it, through interest rates and you know, consumer products going up so much, I could appreciate. But you can't, if you swap every 12 months to get 5% more, it doesn't look great on your CV. And so I'm a bit old school on that. And so people who jump all over the place.
That's a red flag for you?
It is for me, yeah. It's not. It just shows no commitment, no joining of the journey, and it's a double-edged sword, that one. So you don't want to join the journey of a crap company with bad culture, doesn't treat its people well, doesn't reward them, no career progression. So I don't begrudge anyone moving on from that environment. But if it's happening 5 or 6 times in a short period of time,
it's an issue.
Maybe you're the common denominator in that, not them. Maybe, and so that's a red flag for me.
Okay. Let me change the topic for you. You said about mergers and acquisitions.
Yep.
There's a term that we use in our world, being the financial services world. I mean, I'm a retired financial planner. I haven't been doing it. I've been out of the workforce for about 6 or 7 years now. Investors love the word 10-bagger.
Yes.
Can you explain what a 10-bagger is, and have you ever experienced a 10-bagger? Look at the smile on your face. Does that mean that you don't invest in blue chips?
No, I do not.
Okay, you're like
you can't get a 10-bagger out of blue chips.
No, you can't get a 10-bagger.
So what 10-bagger effectively means is, from your investment point, you make 10 times your money. And so whether you make 15 times, that's 15-bagger. 20 times, that's 20-bagger, and so forth. Anyone that's invested in crypto, they'll understand these baggers because some of those people got in early. I'm making 1,000-bagger and whatever, right?
I hate crypto.
But that's what the bagger terminology means.
We'll talk about fart coin later on. It's something that I learned. Fart
Have
coin.
you done some research on it?
Oh, geez, as long as you fart, I mean, you're just going to make heaps of money. But anyway, let's put the crypto.
We'll just fuel it with baked beans.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about crypto a little bit later because it's something that I don't understand, and perhaps I never want to understand it, but it's been a phenomenal ride. Bitcoin, 100,000 US. I know it's a bit less than that now, and I've got a story about Bitcoin too. But have you ever been involved in any 10-baggers?
Yes, and on both occasions it didn't work out very well for me. So the first one was a company going back in the .com, which I think was in the 90s, going back by memory.
Don't show your age, Mark.
Or maybe the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly, but maybe 2010. It wasn't that late. And there was a company called Pacific Rim International.
Remember that one.
And so we got in the low single-digit 1-2 cent zone, 3 cent zone. I can't remember the exact price, but it was around that zone. And we got to know management. And one tip I would give any wannabe investors or investors, especially if you're dealing at the lower end of the ASX, go talk to the directors, go talk to the chairman. They will always take your call. They'll always want to sell their story, their company to you. And you get great insights, whether there's good management, bad management, all that. But we can get into that later. So I got to know the board and management of this company. They were going to roll up financial planning dealer groups. And so
roll up meaning that they were going to acquire business. Yep,
acquire dealer groups. The first one they bought was a company called Money Planners. I got to know the owner of Money Planners. He's now a very good friend of mine. And so we went on that ride. And so they ended up buying a number of financial planning groups, got to a decent size. The stock ran, I'm going by memory, but I'm going to say it was about $1.26, $1.27.
From 2 cents?
From 2 cent zone.
That's
do you think
a 50-bagger, 60-bagger.
Yeah, do you think I sold any?
Please say you did. No? Oh, wow.
Didn't sell any.
Great.
And then I ended up working for the company. I was a financial controller for a period of time because I just wanted to get into these ASX companies. I was Australia's worst financial controller. I actually didn't want to do any controlling. And so I quickly pivoted out of that and went to the stockbroking within Pacific Rim.
Just hold that thought. So you said you bought this stock at 2 cents.
Yes.
And it got to, did you mention $1.20?
In that zone, yes.
In that zone. I'm not going to ask you how much money was your initial investment. That's none of my business. But 50x, 60x, 60 times your money. So even if you put it...
You would have thought that would be enough.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking even if one put $1,000... By the way, what was the time period from 2 cents to $1.20?
I'm going to say it was about 2 years.
2 years, 24 months.
Something like that.
I'm going to say $1,000. that one invested. So from $1,000, we've gone to 60,000. If it's 2,000, it's 120. If it's 380, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Why? Why didn't you sell?
Two reasons.
Right.
Greed. So
Greed meaning that
I
from
thought
you want the
it was
$1.20, you want to go
$5.
right.
Right. So one of the tricks when you do talk to management and get involved with companies and whatnot, you know too much.
Right.
And so sometimes you think you know more than the market.
Right.
And the one key takeaway I could tell you is the market's never wrong. You could have the timing route, but it's never wrong. And so that was a key learning. So should I have got out or part out or whatnot? 100%. But I did not.
Harry, hindsight's easy.
And that's part of my learning at the time. I was only like 28, 29 or something like that. And that's quite young in investment terms and from an age point of view. And so, so I wrote it all the way down. And then it got back to like 10 cents.
Did you sell?
No, because then it was about how do we fix it? How do we get it back to $1.20? That was
Wow.
the strategy then, right? So we kicked out some members of the board at the time that were driving the company down. I went on the board after this for a short period of time.
So is this your first gig at board level?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I was just a non-executive director,
Right.
Representing some fresh money that came into the company, and then we just rebuilt it. And so I put some new people on the board, and then when I was comfortable that the board was in a good position, I left the company. And ultimately, this company ended up getting taken over by IOOF at a market cap. By memory, it was about 130, 140 million bucks or something.
Okay.
So we got a bit of a turnaround. No way back to $1.20, but I think we got it back to maybe 40, 50 cents or something like that.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
So how does one identify? I want to invest in that micro cap, nano cap space. How do I spot a winner?
That's $1 million question because only in hindsight do you know they're winners.
Yeah, sure.
But if I was giving some guidance on how you go about searching, find thematics that have good tailwinds. So the ones I look at the moment, healthcare. With an ageing population here in Australia and globally, but here in Australia, regardless of how much government's got money, not got money and whatever, healthcare
It's always going to be in your face.
It's always going to be in your face.
100%.
It's always going to grow.
100%.
And it's always going to be an attractive. And then it's what do you invest in healthcare? So you don't just invest willy-nilly. Just some company says, I got a widget in healthcare, and then you buy that. You do some research. Research is really important. And meeting board and directors and CEOs and chairs is really important as well. I'm very strong on AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
The go-to word now.
Yeah, well, it's going to transform into ASI, so artificial super intelligence. So it's going to go nuts. Robotics, I think, is coming. Now, there's not many companies in Australia that are geared towards robotics. But if you think about what the thematics are, the strong thematics, and you got to find, I'm not a mining and all a mining guy or commodities guy, so that's not an area I understand. I don't understand geology. I'm not into that. But if you're willing to put the effort into that, I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity in the mining area as well, be it gold, copper, whatever they may be. But it's about, number one, understand what the hell you invest in. So there's lots of people that invest in companies and you ask them what they do,
and such
as Bitcoin.
We're going to talk about that.
Most people that invest in Bitcoin don't actually know what Bitcoin is, other than it's a crypto. And
although you must admit, I've been investing 25 years in markets, and I have never, ever seen so much enthusiasm for the crypto world and the phenomenal price of where did Bitcoin start? $1?
I'm not sure, but it's ridiculous levels compared to where it is today.
I'll tell you a story about Bitcoin that I had with a very young man. But even if it started at $1 and today it's sitting at 100,000 US, which is 160,000 Aussie. So we're talking how many times it's gone. That's not a 10-bagger. You can add the zeros and zeros.
Oh, that's a supermarket full of bags.
100%. I think it's a bubble. I think crypto is crap. I've been holding that view for a very long time. It's probably ignorance is my greatest strength when it comes to crypto. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I think it's got no intrinsic value. I don't know what it does. All that I know, it's acting like a Ponzi scheme. As long as when I buy it, someone else has got to buy it more expensive than me, and so on and so forth and so on. And there are predictions out. I've seen analysts are predicting that Bitcoin could easily hit 250,000 by the end of 2025.
And who'd say it can't?
And it's spot on. I've been wrong.
When it was 20,000, they were saying 100,000.
Yep.
I'm thinking like, yeah, really?
How are you going to get there? Correct.
But I don't have as an aggressive opinion on Bitcoin as you do, because I truly do not understand what the underlying asset actually is.
But there's no underlying asset.
Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I've not done the research on that. So it could be like art. It could be like gold, right? Like, who made gold valuable? Humans made gold valuable.
That's a good point, actually.
Because it's just another rock. But because it's gold and it's shiny and you can melt it and you can make it into nice jewelry and whatnot, all of a sudden it became a global valuable commodity, right? But it doesn't, other than for vanity, it doesn't serve any other purpose of that magnitude. I know they use gold in soldering and things like that, but at a mass scale, it's mostly jewelry, to my knowledge. So is crypto a version of that, and it's just an alternative currency that it's global adoption, and so it becomes the standard? Or is it like artwork that, number one, I don't understand why artwork is worth so much, but the people who are into art...
That's a good point too.
...do have a reasoning behind all of that. So, but, do I appreciate it? No.
Or wine, or old cars, collectible cars is another thing as well.
All those things, right? So they're all
interesting.
Beauty's in the eyes of the beholder and these things, but... One thing I don't do is I don't invest in things I don't understand, and so because I don't understand Bitcoin, I missed the whole Bitcoin train, and that's okay. You can't be on every train. But the one area that in the last few weeks that I have honed in on is within that crypto world is what's called stable coins. And so I think I sent you a paper. I sent you a paper on it, some research I did,
which makes sense. Yep.
And so these stable coins are actually, they're not volatile like a Bitcoin and all the family of cryptos that are out there. These things are actually pegged to the US dollar, and they're actually used for credit transactions. And so
there's a business case.
Even though it's not regulated, there's a business case. There's an economic
now.
Impact that this technology is being used for. And to give you just a feel for how vastly it's being used, and I was ignorant to this until recently. Most people, I'm assuming everyone would understand who Visa credit cards, MasterCard credit cards.
Conglomerates.
They're duopolies. They've got their two biggest powerhouses.
They control the market, 100%.
Yeah. So this stable coins, and there's 2 or 3 of them that form part of the USD stablecoin family. And I'm not sure if it's one coin or the combination of, but over the last 12 months, the whole of 2024, the volume of transactions, and by volume and by dollars, was double that of Visa.
Wow.
And no one's even knows anything about
That's
this.
a disruptor.
And the reason it's getting used is it's effectively a platform. It's a very low interest. The cost of trading on it is very low. Where using Visa and whatnot, there are these high interest rates and so forth. So it gets used a lot in trade.
And that's its unique advantage because of the low cost. Yeah.
And so it's going to disrupt. So I was reading the other day, or listening to a podcast the other day. So Visa is actually talking to these companies about adopting them in there, so they don't start losing market share and whatnot. They're embracing these stable coins, even though they're not a regulated coin yet, or currency yet. And so the more you look into that, because I understand the fundamentals of how it's getting used, I might not know how they build these platforms and where these coins come from, but I know the application. I'm understanding that, and the thematic is very strong because credit's not going anywhere.
Does it worry you that it's not government regulated?
No, it doesn't worry me.
Okay.
Because we're talking trillions of dollars already going through these things. So it's not worrying them. Why would it worry me?
Okay, fair point.
I'm not going to go put my whole house onto that. You have diversity in your investment portfolio, and you say you would put a
small portion.
I put an amount that if it went belly up, my life doesn't change. Sure.
So maybe 1 to 2%.
Yeah, something like that. But you have a taste in it, and it's not going to go like Bitcoin because it's pegged to the US dollar, so
which is a good thing.
Yeah, so it's not going to be it's not going to drop to zero, and it's not going to go up by 1,000%. All right, but I think it'd go up. Who knows what the percentage will go up? I won't give that forecast, but I think the upside's greater than the downside at the moment. So that's one I'm heavily looking into the crypto. But over the past few years, it's decoupled from the volatility of the main cryptos. It's more US dollar correlated.
And there's a business case. Look, let me tell you a funny story about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I finished work, I think it was end of 2017, or 2018. I can't remember the exact date. In 2019-20, I think it was, I received a phone call from some very good clients of mine who we basically became friends. They were a couple of surgeons.
Yeah.
And they mentioned to me that they wanted me to talk to their 24-year-old son. for the sole purpose that the 24-year-old son had finished school, went to uni, didn't think too much of uni, and basically was sitting home watching Netflix and binging on shows day in and day out.
Living a full life.
Yeah, full life, exactly, Netflix. So I agreed to meet this young man as long as he came here voluntarily, but I promised my client that whatever conversations I have with your son, if he decides to talk to me, I won't be relaying that information to you. And she was fine with that. So this young 24-year-old comes home because I didn't have an office then, and obviously I mentioned to my client that I can't give financial advice because the law doesn't permit me to do so. But I think his mum really wanted me to see, why is he doping around the house? Why isn't he motivated? Why isn't he going to school? Why isn't he working? Why he hasn't got a girlfriend?
Why is he not doing something?
Why is he doing something? So, I can understand. I'm a father of three, so I've got kids now 30, 29 and 24. I mean, if my kids weren't working and watching Netflix all day, I'd have an issue with that as well.
100%.
For one reason or another, this young man did come to my door. And when I opened the door, I cracked a joke and I said to the young man, surely your mum didn't force you to come here. And he basically said to me, no, but I'm trying to get my mum off my back and I really don't want to be here. And I said, mate, we'll just have a cup of coffee and we don't have to talk about anything. Look, fast forward 20 minutes into a conversation, he gained enough strength to let me know why he wasn't doing anything. Because I said to him, mate, if you're doing drugs, I'm going to tell your mum, because I expect if someone else was having a chat to my children and they were doing drugs, I would expect that phone call too.
Yeah, that sort of goes beyond the ring of trust.
It does. So there was no drugs. So he turns around and he says to me, so Harry, I do Bitcoin. And you know what I think of Bitcoin, I think it's crap. But that's only my opinion. And I said to him, really? He goes, yeah. And I said, how do you get involved in Bitcoin? And he said, oh, well, mum and dad gave me $10,000 on my 18th birthday and I put the money in Bitcoin. Now, I had no idea what the price of Bitcoin was. And I said, okay, whippy-do. And he goes, oh, well, it is a big deal. And I said, okay, don't tell me, show me. So he gets onto his phone and I see an account balance.
And he killed it?
$6.6 million account balance. And I'm going...
And what did he start with?
10,000.
10,000 bucks.
10,000. So, I mean, I don't know how on earth you get from 10,000 to 6.6, but it was. I saw it.
Buy Bitcoin.
In fact, it was if I remember, it was 6,583,000. So nearly $6.6 million.
Good on him.
I was stoked. Now, I understand why.
And his parents had no knowledge of this.
No knowledge. And I gave my word that I wouldn't tell mum. Mum knows now, and there's a story with that as well. So I spent half an hour mentioning to this kid how much I hate Bitcoin. And whilst I said I can't give you financial advice, I also said to him, I've got a baseball bat in my bedroom. I'm actually going to bring it out, and I'm going to hit you if you don't sell these things. You know what? He took the courage and sold them and ended up buying some big commercial property. We had an argument about capital gains tax because these crypto maniacs believe that when they buy crypto and it goes up, they don't have to pay capital gains tax.
Yeah,
but
I think it's like the TAB.
Yeah, but that's another story. So that was my experience of Bitcoin. So when this young man leaves my home, now, I mean, I'm 58. Well, at that time, I was much younger than that.
I thought you were older than that.
When I was I'm 58, buddy. You sort of like think, oh my goodness, 18 to 24 in 6 years, $6.6 million. So
and imagine
crypto works.
And imagine how much that would be worth if he didn't get your baseball bat and made him sell.
Yeah, I know. I kind of feel guilty about that. Although I do remember when you sold, I think sometime later on, I think went down by 30 or 40%. I felt really good about myself. But each time I look at Bloomberg and see Bitcoin at 100,000 US, I'm going, geez, did I do the right thing? I mean,
he's left a few million on the table.
Left a few million on the table. So that's my experience of
But good
Bitcoin.
on him, right? He took a punt.
100%.
And at that young age, if he blew up his 10 grand, he still had a life ahead of him to rebuild it all and whatnot. Right?
Of
He
course.
didn't put his life fortune into it.
No.
And, but good on him.
Nah, absolutely.
So what, you made him buy a Bunnings building or something, did you?
Yeah, I put him in touch with a guy that ended up buying, a fairly safe and secure. I mean, I explained to him, you need to get some passive income coming into your doorstep. You need to find a commercial building with a AAA tenant and AAA lease. And he's sort of like, look, to his credit, he actually listened to me.
While he was watching Netflix.
While whilst he was watching Netflix.
Is he still watching Netflix?
I'm not too sure, but his mum rang me 2 years later, and she said to me, "Thank you very much." I said, "But I didn't do anything." "No, you forced him to sell this crypto stuff that he was involved in." She calls it crypto stuff. And, you know, he owned a big building and all that sort of stuff. So mum was sort of like happy that, you know, he wasn't doing drugs and all sorts of silly things. But it's amazing how, you know, some people have had a lot of success in the crypto world. No different in the ASX, 10 baggers, 20 baggers, 30 baggers. I wouldn't think there's too many people, though, doing 10 baggers in the ASX. There's got to be
not at the moment.
There's got to be a bit of luck.
There's always
there's
luck.
got to be luck.
There's
Mark.
luck, and that's why diversity of investments helps that luck. But in the current market at the lower end, and there's only probably some mining companies and maybe some biotechs that you're getting big returns if you buy the right ones.
The bigger the story, the bigger the returns?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the ones that, you know, are trying, they've got capital restraints, they've got liquidity restraints, they've got weak share prices. So you just got to ride that out. But opportunities are still there. M&A, you know, mergers and acquisitions are there. And capital, I think in this 2025, capital is going to start coming back.
Wow.
Because I'm seeing the activity in M&A. I'm going to keep using the word M&A. I can't say mergers and acquisitions all the time. It's too tongue-twisty. But yeah, so that's giving me more fundamental evidence that are more optimistic 2025 as compared to my optimistic in
So you think
24.
the market's going to go up?
I do.
Jeez, I'm the opposite.
Well, that's why I'm right and you're wrong.
In fact, I believe that we've been on such a wild ride with this. I mean, I'm not saying that our AI doesn't work, but the valuations are so overstretched. I'm expecting a 20 to 30% correction in 2025. I hope you're wrong and I'm right, because I've gone short, which basically means I've taken a position or a gambling position, which I don't advise anyone to do this. Short selling or, mucking around with CFDs is betting that the market's going to go the opposite. I mean, I look at the valuation of Commonwealth Bank. Are you aware that Commonwealth Bank is, I think up until recently, was $160 per share?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The most expensive bank in the world?
But that's why I don't play in that space, because even if you were optimistic about the chances of CBA still growing, it's not going to go to
500.
Yeah, it's not going to go to $500 or $1,000. Like, maybe it will. Who knows? But I can't see that happening, because it's like the Australian market for CBA is pretty saturated. Like, they've got a massive market share. They're the leading bank. And where are they going to get new business? They've got to steal it from the other banks, or the other bank's not going to just sit there and take it. But CBA has been Premier Bank for a long time now.
And a good
there was a
bank too.
period where the NAB and CBA would sort of alternate. Every now and then ANZ will poke their nose in or whatever. But for a long period now, CBA has been the number one bank. But where's all the growth going to come from?
I think it's going back to $100, but that's my personal view.
But whether it does or not, I just don't play in that area. That bores me. I'm not
Blue
really,
chips are boring. Yeah, I agree.
I don't really get much fun out of that. I want those 10 baggers, and I want to be. I like building companies. I like being part of companies that get built, and where I can have an impact and a contribution, and that's what I'll do.
A lot of people, they're forced to in some ways, because superannuation has become part of our lives. What's your view on super?
Dead money.
Crap?
No, not crap. No. Depends if you have a self-managed super fund, or you've got it sitting in an industry fund or a managed fund. Or
Let's explain what a self-managed super fund is as opposed to an industry fund. Because self-managed super fund, you're basically choosing your own investments.
You are.
As opposed to going to an industry fund where money's going to them, and they're basically they're providing the asset allocation according to your risk and financial needs.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Financial Planner.
No, my pleasure. I've still got that hat on.
I thought you were going to bring a financial services guide out there.
What's your risk profile? 1 to 10. I'm at 7. You belong here.
I'm 10, mate. Risk profile's like right up here off the charts. But yes, so that's just the way it is. And so, so for me...
Do you know why they bought out super 25 or 30 years ago?
Well, so that's part of the problem with super, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it was like super attractive.
It was.
You could put volumes into there, tax-free and whatnot. Then the minute they
At 55, you could retire. Sorry, at 55, you can take out your money.
Tax-free.
Tax-free.
Yeah. So once they captured all this, it's like they put this net out and got all this money into super. People, it was tax effective for them or whatever. But in this country, we're one of the highest tax countries in the world. that's too juicy now. We're missing out on too much tax. So now we've got to start taxing. So then they put contributions tax. Then they do this tax. Then there's that tax. And so
They keep changing the
they keep moving
goalposts.
the goalposts. And so is it attractive like it was on day one? I don't think it is. Is it still better than paying, having money under the bed and paying your own taxes and whatnot? Probably is, But I'm not a big believer of super.
I think it's crap.
I'm a big believer of wealth creation. Now, if you can use super to minimise some tax and build the wealth creation and create a pension, self-funded pension down the back end, and it's all tax-free and the laws don't change that much, that you
Then
can
it's
still end up
beneficial.
back up. There's some beneficial there. But do I work for super? No, I don't work for super.
And I guess being restricted, you can't take out your money till you're at least age 60 and fully retired from the workforce. You're stuck.
And then it's restricted how much you can take out. You can't just take the whole lot out.
No.
And so it's an over-regulated, but it's no different than look at capital gains tax.
Yeah, same.
Look at GST. You'll pay tax on something, and then you'll invest the net tax amount, and then you'll pay another tax because you made some money on that. And so it's like the gift that keeps on giving in the wrong way. You just get taxed at every level. But that's what we've grown up with. That's what we live in. It's still a great country to live in. So I'm not here to bag everything.
No, there's no doubt about that.
But you don't. The people, you can understand why the uber wealth people live overseas and channel money over there to reduce taxes, whatever they can do, because they can pay for the advice, the structures involved and whatnot. Us normal people, like you think of the mortgage rates now, the amount of loans and whatnot. Like years ago, if you earned $200,000, that was a lot of money, right?
It was bloody
It's still
good
a lot
money.
of money today, right? But if you look at $200,000 in comparison to what you need to get a loan at 80% loan to LVRs and whatnot, it's a valuation ratio. You look at all that, the $200,000
doesn't mean much.
Doesn't get you that far, because the
So true.
$200,000 you're giving away like 80-90 in tax or whatever the split comes out to, and then you got all the costs and whatnot, and the cost of living is so high, and so like. You're not uber wealthy now because you make $200,000, and so
No. In fact, there was something reported in the AFR, that's the Australian Financial Review, that to buy a house in Sydney, to qualify to buy a home in Sydney, I think you needed a taxable income of $235,000. Who in the hell under the age of 30? I'm sure there's some, but there's not many, earning $235,000 to buy the average median house in Sydney. I mean, it's just non-existent. I mean, young kids cannot buy a home anymore.
how they get in the market? It's really tough. They've
No,
got to
it's
go
really
regional,
tough.
and even regional's going nuts.
Yeah, 100%.
Post-COVID, regional's gone nuts. So, as much as it's a great country, we do get overtaxed, and so the incentive to build wealth and whatnot, I know why people go to Dubai, go to Singapore, and things like that, because they what takes us 10 years, they can do in 2.
Yeah, sure. And look, for me, super, I hate that narrative. I mean, there's no conspiracy theory. I think Paul Keating worked out how many years it's been enforced, 30 odd years. He worked out that Aussies don't save money for their retirement. Let's force it. Started with 3% of salary contributions.
Yep.
And I think today it's gone up to 11.5, going to 12 next year.
Yep, something like that.
And that's the narrative, which is sad, because I see superannuation more as a tax structure for people with high incomes, not low incomes. There's all sorts of restrictions, and that's why I think superannuation's crap. But it's funny how people view superannuation. They see it as the be-all and end-all.
But the point you made before with Paul Keating, that Australia, as a generation, as a population and whatnot, we are crap savers, right?
Oh, that's true.
Like you got some people that are, but as a mass, we're spenders, we're not savers. And so the forced saving nature of it, I think, has some merit. Like that, I get that part of it. What's really frustrating is the over-regulation of it all, and the gouging at every level and so forth. So it's okay to have this forced saving, but they don't want you to have too much. The system doesn't want you to have too much, and it is what it is. And so you just got to work within that.
True. Let's flip onto sports, because you're a bit of a sports nut.
Yes, I love sports.
All right.
Yes.
You might as well mention the team that you barrack for, AFL, which is a bit of a shocker.
I'm a nut. I'm a North Melbourne Football Club nut in the AFL. Not heavily involved, but I'm in the match committee coterie group at North, so I get one of my loves is I get to go to game day, especially the home games, and I get to go in the rooms, and then I go into the coach's room and I get a briefing from Alistair Clarkson and Todd Viney and whoever else they bring into that session, and you get a bit of an insight into the day's game, the opposition, the team selection, the strategy
You love that
trying
stuff.
to win the game, and I love it. And for me, it's like, because I love that club, my club. You love being there, and it's also like when I'm in that environment, I don't have a care in the world. I'm not thinking about anything to do with work. I'm not thinking any stresses or nothing. I'm there, passionate, yelling my head off. The footy is one of those great games, and it's not as bad as it is in UK football and things like that. But it's one of those great games where no matter what it's a cross selection of people across the community sitting in these footy stands, but you all come together as one, support your team. And people you have nothing in common with are your best mate on that game day.
Because they're barrack for North?
Because they're barrack for North, and you're high-fiving when they got goals and whatever, and everyone's sing kumbaya and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't won too many games over the last 4 years.
When was the last time the North won a premiership?
99.
Wow.
So it's about time we win one now.
Jeez.
So a bit like the markets, I'm really optimistic on North
Again,
for this
yeah.
year. Yes, we've done 4 hard years. We've got a brilliant coach, one of the best coaches
Wasn't
going
Clarkson
around.
at Hawthorn?
Yeah, he won
Right.
4 premierships at Hawthorn, and now he's at North, and he's going to win 4 more.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in Crete last year with some cousins, and we were just holidaying in Crete. And as we're coming out of our Airbnb accommodation, a bloke comes up. I think he was going to be the next resident in the Airbnb, and I kind of realised who it was, but I wasn't too sure because I don't follow AFL. I'm a Carlton supporter, but I used to love it when Jezelinka was around and Bususto and Fitzpatrick. I mean, that was my era. Since then, I've really turned into the EPL soccer in the UK.
Well, it's coincidental. That's the whole period Carlton was crap.
Yeah.
When you change, you jump off the ship when
Yeah,
Carlton was crap.
I
So
did.
you're a fair weather supporter.
Yeah, no,
They don't need people like you.
No, you know what? You don't follow the EPL, do you?
I follow it.
But are you into like do you watch games?
No, I don't watch games because it's on Optus Vision or whatever it's called,
yeah.
and I don't subscribe to that. And,
Yeah.
and the games are always like at midnight.
It is. It's hard.
So it's not, so when you've got a young family and you've got to go to work and stuff, you're retired, so
Yeah.
I get why you might
Yeah,
spend more
yeah.
time watching it. But I certainly follow the results. I follow the highlights.
Look, Mark, I've got to tell you, I mean, I haven't physically gone to an English Premier League game, but a friend of mine took me, we both went to Scotland a couple of years ago, because his mate, Ange Postecoglou, as you know who Ange is.
Yes, very successful.
Very successful. He's the current coach of Spurs,
Yep.
and at the time he was the coach of Celtic. So I got to...
And he brained it.
Absolutely. So I got to experience Glasgow Derby Celtic against Rangers. I mean, I've been to Carlton Essendon, Carlton Collingwood at the G. It's great, but nothing like Glasgow. I mean, these supporters...
It's tribal over there.
It is. It's mad. It's mad. Supporters have to be separated, and they talk Celtic Rangers 24/7. Nothing else matters. In fact... I've heard couples in Scotland, if they want to get married, they cannot get married on the days that when Celtic play Rangers. I think they play 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
It is that bad. But
What can they marry people? Like, can a Celtic guy marry a Glasgow
it's
woman?
hard. It's hard. It's very, very difficult. Look, I'll tell you how bad it got. I was lucky with my mate. We went. We started driving around, and we met. I think it was 2 couples. I think it was 2 couples, and they happened to be Rangers supporters, but they were beautiful people. And believe it or not, they mentioned to us that a lot of Rangers supporters, when they're having dinner, there's no greens on their plate.
What do they do at Christmas? Because Christmas has green and red
I
and
know.
white.
And
What do they do
do
there?
you know why they don't?
How about the trees? They cut all the trees down?
And do you know why they don't have any veggies or any greens?
Because it's Celtic.
Yeah, it's the colours of Celtic. So that's how mad they are. But
That's taking it too far.
yeah, it is.
When you won't eat vegetables because they're green,
yeah,
that's
it
taking
is.
it too
It's
far.
very, very.
You need to see someone for
It's
that.
very, very expensive. So do you go to all the games at North?
I try to go to all the home games because part of the membership is that you get to go into the rooms and whatnot. The club's really good. Sometimes the away games, because we play interstate games and I don't go interstate. I don't have the time because of family commitments. And so they'll give some of the away games here in Melbourne. You get to go to those as well. And I've done it for 2 years now. This year will be my 3rd. And I'm loving it. It's one of the best experiences I've had, notwithstanding we haven't won many games. But it's a bit like when we spoke earlier about younger employees and whatever, go for the journey. And so when we do have success, and I'm of ultimate belief we're going to have success, can't tell you which year, but I believe we're going to, the journey will make that success so much sweeter.
I can imagine.
Whereas if it just comes easy and we just won every game, and sure, I'd still enjoy it, don't get me wrong, and I look forward to the day when we win every game. But this journey, this tough yards, and the supporters have been, like it's amazing as a club.
How many members?
About 55,000, I think it is.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
But I don't know where they get these statistics, right? But we are one of the highest converting of the available market of North Melbourne supporters in Australia, and how many of them are members.
You got the biggest conversion?
We got one of the biggest conversions. I think like WA, those sort of clubs, because they're highly concentrated, are probably higher. But North, punches above its weight all the time. We're the first club that's always spoken about to be relocated, to be gone, to be this and to that. And you talk about resilience.
Wasn't North going to Tassie?
No.
I'm thinking of someone else.
No, we played in Tassie, but so did Hawthorn. But Hawthorn never got mentioned to be relocated to Tassie. It was always North that got said, you should relocate to Tassie. Right. Because there's always this view, there's too many teams in Melbourne. That's just a view, right? But my view is, so what? Like, if everyone, like North Melbourne is profitable, St Kilda's profitable, the Bulldogs are profitable. So, like, if the clubs are making money and they're and whatever, why do you have to kill clubs for? Why did we kill Fitzroy? Well, they were losing a lot of money. So there's probably some reasoning behind that. But why kill all these legacies, right? So because like if there was no North Melbourne, I'm not switching to another club. For me, it's like the mentality is like a child. I don't replace a child with another child.
Yeah, good point.
You know what I mean? Like that's my child. That's my kid. And so why do you want to kill it? And people get pleasure out of kicking lower clubs. And so North isn't the gun at the moment because we've been crap for 4 years and so forth. But our time's coming, and so that journey, I'm going to savour it when we get to the other side. I want to make sure I'm involved.
Talking about young guns, have you had any young guns that have worked with you that have made it big time?
Not so much big time, but a funny little story. So I watch a lot of series during my spare time and things like that.
Are you a Netflix binge?
Not a binger. No, not a binger. I don't have the time to spend hours. I didn't make $6 million on Bitcoin, but
6.6.
But I do. If people, it's a very popular show called Suits back in the day, and so I got into watching that, and so call me vain, call me whatever you want, but I saw myself as Harvey Specter in profile wise and whatnot, and so I wanted my own Michael Ross, which was his sidekick that he brought into, and I'm not talking about the photographic memory side of things, more a protege that you could share the journey with again, right? So. And so I still remember this part. So I did a presentation to a company that also is a mergers and acquisition advisory firm, and they invited me to talk to their graduates, and they were running a graduate program. And so I went into a room of about maybe 20 of these graduates, and told them about the journey of Paragon that I mentioned earlier. So I spoke about that, the things to look for, how you go about it, what you do and what you don't. It got a really good response. So the company, the MD of that company came back to me. He goes, look, everyone really loved your talk. We're not taking 20 people. We're not KPMG. We're not taking 20 people, but we're going to pick 2 or 3. Once we finalise our 2 or 3, if you would want, if you someone or whatever, I'm happy to share the CVs of these people, and then if you want to bring them on, you can bring them on. And so I thought, hey, here's my Michael Ross moment.
Because you built it up in your mind.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm a big believer, if I think positively enough, it's going to happen.
Yep.
And so this one happened. I said, this is my opportunity. Like it's on my lap. It's fallen on my lap here. So I interviewed, I think it was about 4 or 5 people that were in that room. Landed on one. Very uber smart kid. Very ambitious.
How old?
Potty mouth. He would be, I'm going to say he's about 22, 23.
Oh, what, a real young man.
Yeah, young guy. He was still going to uni. Maybe he was 21. I can't remember exactly. He was still going to uni. He was doing treasury, like uber smart. Loved M&A. And so he joined me, and this was a team of 1 before he came on board. So as I said,
team of 2 now.
Now it's a team of 2, and he. And he was my Robin to Batman, my Michael Ross to Harvey Silver. Harvey Specter, sorry. Who's Harvey Silver?
I don't know.
And so so he stayed, and he was only, because he was still going to uni and what, I think it was 2 days or 2.5 days a week with me. And so that was good. So, I get him to do a lot of the analyst work, the searching, the whatnot for all the clients that we had and so forth. And then I'm going to say it was maybe let's say 12 months. It might have been a bit before, a bit after. I can't remember exactly, but around the 12 month, he came and saw me, and when you know someone wants to say something to you, but they don't know how to get it out. So he was like really appreciative for the opportunity to work with me and so forth. But he'd actually got a position with KPMG.
Oh,
and so he was really worried about how I was going to react and whatnot. And I couldn't be more happier for this kid. Like he's got so much potential.
Pivot.
But that's the right way, right? So for him, like my firm's called Akita Consulting. That's not a brand, right? That's just me. And so he was never going to build a profile under me. He was going to get a lot of experience to be at the coalface, but that brand, working with KPMG, working with PwC, that brand is very strong.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's very strong.
No doubt about it.
And so I encouraged him, mate, that's fantastic. And he thanked me for the opportunity, and we're still friends today. And,
wonderful.
And so my Michael Ross moment sort of helped him with his career. And that was only a small thing. I don't take any credit for his achievements, but it was really nice to have that moment. But then I quickly worked out after that, I don't want a Michael Ross. I just want Harvey Specter. That's it.
Are you into movies?
Yes, but not everything. I like comedy.
Oh, you like comedy?
Yeah, I like laughing. I've got quite a high pitched laugh. Comedy. I like the Marvel universe.
Oh, you are a kid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but so I don't like serious movies. I don't like horror movies. I'm not interested in watching people, some ghost stab someone or whatever. There's, Johnny Kruger and all that.
All that sort of stuff. Freddy Krueger.
There you go. So Johnny's brother, though. So there's certain genre that I like, and I like things that make me switch off. So like one that it's not a movie, it's a series, but one that I've just recently, for some reason, all these wars going on around the world, which are nuts, in my TikTok feed, outside of your daughter coming on my TikTok feed, is I started, for some reason, I don't know how it came up, but ex-CIA agents, and they start talking about Israel and the Hamas and Russia and Ukraine and the previous, altercations with Iran and Iraq and all these sort of things. And they made a comment, one of these feeds made a comment about a show on Netflix called Fauda, Fauda. And it's a series, and these guys were talking about how unbelievable that it got released, because it's the most accurate thing they've ever seen of what really happens in these wars that go on. And so I've been watching this Fauda show, and it's like about 36, 37 minutes per episode, so you can do it in a short sprint and whatnot. And like it's got me. Like I'm hooked on this thing, and I'm certainly not any connected to history. I'm not a historian. I don't study history and whatnot. But it's really opened my eyes on, like, on one side, the Israeli, and I have no sides here, but the Israelis, you can see why they are aggrieved. And then you look at the Palestinians, you can see why they are aggrieved. And not that I'm a counsellor or anything of the imagination, but if someone was able to take the emotion out of the situation, it feels like there's some common ground there that if people wanted some peace could be achieved.
Oh,
but they don't. But for whatever reason, you killed my mum, so I'm going to kill your dad. You killed my brother, so I'm going to kill your sister.
Knife to the tooth,
it's all it's this toing and froing, and it never ends. And
it's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a lot of wasted life and whatnot. And like we spoke earlier about having passion for life and whatnot.
And yet
these people,
the opposite's happening there.
Well, their passion is to destroy the enemy, but the enemy is always there. It never goes on either side. Like no one gets eradicated. People just die. So it's really sad. But this shows, like, if anyone's interested in that type of show, and I'm not passing judgment on either Israelis or the Hamas or the Palestinians, as I don't understand the history and I never studied it.
I reckon Trump's going to stop both wars. I actually believe him.
Well, it's on him. It's a good point you bring up. So another podcast I was listening to spoke about, I think it was the Joe Rogan podcast, I think, but he spoke about I don't know if it was on that one or something else, but he spoke about that if you think Trump's a bit chaotic on the way he talks and acts and whatnot, he spoke about this other guy, I don't know what his name is, but this other guy that comes into these negotiation meetings, and this guy just wants to press the button.
Oh, wow.
The nuclear button, just wants to press it.
Yeah.
And so he goes into these meetings and he goes, I told you, Donnie, let's go press the button. Let's go press the button. And so he's part of his negotiation because he says, they don't know if this guy's nuts, he's real. So all of a sudden the ante's up because you're dealing with an uncertain environment and you don't know, because so their plan, their theory is if we go in there chaotic, we'll get a better outcome. And he's more chaotic than me, so you've got to help me stop him pressing the button. And so it was along those lines. I'm very simplifying it all. There's a lot more detail to it all. But that's some of his tactics. His son gets involved in the negotiations as well. He's got a really good rapport with a lot of the Arab countries and so forth. I don't know what's said in those meetings, obviously, but he had a lot of success in Trump's first term. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that he's got a strategy.
I'm really optimistic. I think if both wars can stop, the world would be in a better place.
Everybody's in a better place,
yeah.
but those countries are in a better. Those people,
everyone, the whole world.
Like who wins in war?
No one. Absolutely no one. And who would have thought, there'd be two wars running in parallel with each other? It's actually nuts. There was a report a couple of weeks ago that in Ukraine and Russian soldiers, that counts like tens of thousands of soldiers have been buried and no one's reported anything. So it's really serious. And I really do hope they stop the wars tomorrow morning. I mean, if I had to be optimistic, I would want both wars to actually cease.
Oh, I don't think there's too many people that wouldn't want that, to be honest. Like, why would you want war to keep going on? It's not good for anybody, unless you're in the defence department supplying things or whatever. But yeah, it's sad. What can we do about it? Not much. But yeah, you can live in the hope that be it Trump or be it the parties involved, come to their senses and stop the killings. Stop unnecessary killings.
We obviously both live in Victoria, Melbourne. Do you reckon Daniel Andrews stuffed up the state?
Ha! Stuffed up the state.
And I'm being polite now.
Yeah, I know you are.
I've got a huge gripe.
Yeah, look, I don't think he did a very good job. I think
he single-handedly destroyed the whole state.
Yeah, we were the worst locked-up state during COVID.
2 years.
Worst probably across the globe. I don't know who's done it worse than us here in Melbourne.
No, we were the worst.
Yeah, so...
when you go to Europe, because I travel a fair bit. When I say a fair bit, every year I go to Europe, and you explain to them that we were in lockdown for 2 years, they cannot believe. They actually think that I'm lying. And when they Google it, when they jump on their phones, they turn around and say, really? How did you survive for 2 years?
Well, there's one thing they don't appreciate is the COVID over here was far worse than the COVID over there.
Oh, really? That is nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
It was a massive overreaction. Whether it was power tripping, whether it was scaremongering, I don't know what the motivations are, and we'll probably never know what the true motivations are for all of that.
He's shut down. A lot of businesses have gone broke because of his actions.
But you know what's worse than that, and that's pretty bad, is the mental health aspect of this.
It's a disaster.
There's a lot of kids that lack the social skills that have been impacted by that lockup period. There's a lot of adults that still suffer from mental health.
They do.
From being locked up. No one's equipped for that. There's no preparation for being locked in your house. And so the mental health aspect, which is a demon all of its own, that has no cure. You can harness it and try and work with it, but there's no magic fix. I find that the saddest. My wife works in a primary school, and
she would have seen it firsthand.
And she sees kids that are struggling, adapting back to the school environment. Now it's getting better now. We're a number of years on, but at the beginning there, it was really tough. These kids went from being self-taught by parents who are not really equipped to be teachers and losing patience and whatnot. How many marriages, all of a sudden you have to live with your spouse all day, every day.
Dude,
that's
tough.
testing for a
that's
marriage.
Tough.
I survived, but that's tough because you're not used to that. No one, and whatnot. So, there's a lot.
Are you aware that Victoria, I think it's approaching $200 billion in debt? I think it's 200 billion or close to it.
What, they invest in Bitcoin?
No. $200 billion in debt. In fact, I know this for a fact. If it's not 200 billion, it's 180 billion. Who gives a rip?
I'll give it a couple of months, it'll be 200 billion.
Well, it will.
They've got to refinance it, don't they?
Yes, at higher rates.
Up it goes.
It certainly does. So outside of American cities, Victoria is the worst state in the world. Outside of American cities.
Be proud.
200 billion.
At least we stand for something.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
the whole
it's going to take a couple of generations to get through this.
The whole Mornington Peninsula is for sale because they have to obviously increase their revenue take. So we've got land taxes and property taxes and Airbnb tax and all sorts of taxes, and it's really getting tough now for a lot of people.
Yep, and I think nothing's going to change until we have a change of government. And then you hope that change of government, and that's at federal level as much as at state level.
Yeah, for sure.
I think at both levels they've had a crack, not done fantastically well.
It hasn't worked, Mark.
No, it hasn't worked. And so just like any company, if something doesn't work, you have to change it.
Yep.
And if you don't change the people, you change the people.
Yep.
And so...
See, I reckon Albo's going to lose too.
Well, it's going to be interesting, right? So at the last state election, I would have put money that Andrews was going to lose after locking everybody up for all that period, and then when it all came out, nothing happened.
Yeah.
All right. COVID was not as big as a
deal
ethnic cleansing exercise that they predicted there, right? And so you would have thought he would have lost that election, but he won.
He won.
He smashed it.
I know.
Not only won it, he smashed it.
I know.
So everyone said,
I can't figure that one out.
Well done, Andrew.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that one out.
So it's hard to predict what's going to happen now. The feeling around communities now is everyone's had a gutful. A lot of the promises that were made that he got on that last election, all the regional stuff, that was all crap, and they got no money and whatnot. At some point, a bit like Trump winning easy in the States, you'd like to think, I think it's Batten that's in Victoria and now Dutton in the federal. The voters do a protest vote and give it to somebody else to have a go. Give it to another party. I'm not a staunch Labor, staunch Liberal.
Neither am I.
I'm a staunch get things right. And so if that government's not getting it right, the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, by doing exactly the same thing and expecting a different result.
And so if you're going to put them back in power, you're going to get more of the same bullshit that you've been getting. And so fingers crossed. We got the state election. Is it state or federal coming up this year?
I think federal is in May. I think May this year.
Okay, May. And then state would be next year sometime.
I think it's next year in September. Look,
okay.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't follow politics that
I hate politics.
Yeah, well, I spend all my time on things I can control. The things I can't control, I might have an opinion on it, but I don't go worrying about, what date am I going to go vote? I don't have time to worry about that.
I don't even want to vote. I don't know why Australians are forced to vote. In America, you're not forced to. It's a voluntary thing. So I don't know why I have to be forced to vote, and if I don't vote, I actually get fined. I think the Australian politics is just boring. There's been no change.
But let me ask you, Australian culture, we're different than the American culture, right?
Why do you say that?
Because Australian culture is more, she'll be right, mate. American culture is, they learn every day, they sing the anthem in schools, they're very patriotic.
Rah, rah, rah?
Yeah, it's all patriotic, right? America's the greatest and everybody else is shit, right? Here, we don't grow as Australians. We don't grow up Australians the best and everybody else is shit. And we don't, I don't even know the Australian anthem, to be honest, to sing it. Like, I know it when I hear it, but I can't sing it. And so we're a little bit apathetic in that regard. And so if voting wasn't voluntary, I reckon you'd only have like 5% of the population voting.
I think you're right.
And so how are you going to get the right parties coming in?
Let them sort out on the 5%, because all of a sudden that everyone's forced to vote. Guess what? They're not getting it right anyway. So what difference does it actually make?
There's probably no right or wrong system, but I don't mind the forced vote versus the voluntary vote when you have an apathetic population.
Interesting. Well, Mark, episode 1.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to episode 2.
Yes. What are we going to cover in episode 2?
I have no idea.
Any special topics?
No, I don't really know. I mean, you know how I am. I hate structure. So whatever comes into our heads, I'm sure I'll think of something. But no Bitcoin. I'm done with Bitcoin.
Yeah, no more currency talk.
Oh, we haven't talked about currencies. Geez, that's dangerous. Have you ever mucked around with currencies?
Not in my favour, no.
Oh, not in your favour? I know someone recently who did a swap on the American yen trade. I think the yen got up to 160 yen to the US, and overnight it went down to about 145 and went up to 155 or 160 again. And decided to go short and went opposite the way. Lost 4 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah, lost 4 million. Currencies are very, very dangerous.
Yeah, what's the leverage you get with it? You know,
Well, yeah,
anyone who looks at that,
yeah.
you know, you could put $1,000 in, you get like $1 million of exposure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you can really blow your nuts.
You know that the Aussie dollar's gone down to 61.
Yes, I
Are
saw
you
that.
aware? In
Yes.
fact, everything's getting killed. So not a good time to go travelling this year. If it's down to
But
61.
you still got to travel.
Oh, that's a must for me.
Yep,
Yeah.
still gotta travel.
It's an absolute must. All right, Mark.
Been a pleasure, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, see you
Bye.
in round 2.
Absolutely. Cheers.
See you, mate.